The private elevator to the 45th floor had never carried this much tension. Victoria Hartford checked her presentation tablet for the third time, her reflection catching in the polished brass doors. Navy suit, hair pulled back in a professional chignon. 20 years of experience distilled into one leather portfolio. She was 42 years old and starting over. The numbers climbed. 37th floor, 38th. Her late husband Michael's voice echoed in her memory, the last thing he'd said before his heart gave out at 44. Tori, you're brilliant. Don't let anyone make you forget that. 4 years. 4 years of grief and travel and slowly, painfully rebuilding a career she'd walked away from. This contract with Blackwood Industries was her re-entry into a world that had moved on without her. 6 months, $500,000, enough to launch her own firm and prove that Victoria Hartford could stand alone. The elevator chimed, 45th floor. The doors opened onto an executive suite that looked like it had been designed by someone who valued intimidation over comfort. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan like a trophy, minimalist furniture in shades of graphite and steel. And in the center of it all, a desk made of solid mahogany that probably cost more than her brownstone mortgage. Behind that desk should have been Alexander Blackwood, legendary CEO, the man they called the Silicon Ice King. Instead, she found an empty chair and a framed photograph turned face down. Across Manhattan, in a penthouse that echoed with the same expensive emptiness, Alexander Blackwood stood by his window and watched the sunrise paint Central Park in shades of amber and gold. His phone buzzed for the 4th time. Harrison Blackwood, his father, the man who had built an empire and expected his son to maintain it with the same ruthless efficiency. Alex didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the photograph on his desk. Emma, at 10 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, before the divorce had taught her that fathers were men who chose boardrooms over ballet recitals. She was 16 now, beautiful, brilliant, and she called him Harrison, after his father, the cruelest thing she could think to say. You're just like him, cold, absent, more interested in your empire than your family. She wasn't wrong. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. I have a meeting, Dad. Harrison's voice came through with the force of a man who had never learned to ask instead of demand. Cancel it. Caroline and I are coming to your office. 10 o'clock. This has gone on long enough, Alexander. The line went dead. Alex closed his eyes. Caroline Ashford, 45 years old, CEO of her own tech company, daughter of Robert Ashford, who held 15% of Blackwood shares. Beautiful in the way that expensive things are beautiful. Perfect, polished, cold. Their families had been planning this merger for a year. Not a marriage. A merger, that's what it was really. A strategic alliance wrapped in white lace and a prenuptial agreement 30 pages long. He had been stalling, avoiding, postponing, and now his father was forcing his hand. Alex grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, already 15 minutes late for a meeting he couldn't remember scheduling. Victoria stood when he entered. The movement was fluid, controlled, the gesture of a woman who had negotiated billion-dollar deals in rooms full of men who underestimated her. Alex stopped in the doorway, struck not by her beauty, which was considerable, but by something in her eyes. Intelligence, yes, but also a kind of weariness he recognized in his own mirror. Mr. Blackwood, she extended her hand. Victoria Hartford, I apologize for catching you at what appears to be a difficult moment. Her handshake was firm, professional, but when their palms touched, something electric passed between them, a recognition. The way soldiers from the same war might nod to each other across a crowded room. Ms. Hartford. He released her hand perhaps a moment too slowly. Please, I apologize for being late. She didn't sit. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with an expression that was part curiosity, part concern. Are you all right? The question surprised him. In 20 years of business, no one had ever asked him that in a first meeting. They asked about projections, market share, quarterly earnings. No one asked if he was all right. I'm fine. The lie came automatically. You're not. She said it gently, without judgment. But we can reschedule if you need to handle something else first. No. He moved to his desk, suddenly needing the familiar ground of business between them. Please, show me what you've prepared." She opened her tablet, and for the next 20 minutes, she walked him through a restructuring plan so elegant it was almost beautiful. She spoke the language of efficiency and optimization, but underneath it was something else, a concern for the human cost of change, the workers who would be displaced, the families who depended on paychecks. "You care about them," he interrupted her mid-presentation. "The people, not just the numbers." She looked up, surprised. "Of course, they're not assets on a spreadsheet, Mr. Blackwood. They're human beings with mortgages and children and dreams that probably don't include unemployment." He leaned back in his chair, seeing her clearly for the first time. "How long since you lost him?" Her composure flickered. Just for a moment, but in that flicker, he saw an ocean of grief. 4 years. Her voice was steady. "How did you know?" "You're wearing a wedding ring, right hand." She looked down at the gold band, as if surprised to find it there. Some loves don't end just because they do. No, he thought of Emma's gap-toothed smile, frozen forever in a photograph. They don't. The moment stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, but charged with the recognition of two people who had survived losses that left scars no one else could see. And then his office door burst open. Harrison Blackwood entered with the confidence of a man who had never been told no. 72 years old, distinguished gray hair, a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. And beside him, Caroline Ashford in pale pink Chanel, perfectly coiffed, her smile as warm as winter marble. "Alexander!" Caroline glided forward with practiced grace. "Darling, we couldn't wait. I wanted to finalize the announcement." Time seemed to slow. Alex saw it play out in his mind. The announcement, the engagement Caroline and their fathers had orchestrated without bothering to secure his actual agreement. The press release already written. The merger of Blackwood and Ashford interests, sealed with a marriage that would make both families richer and neither of them happy. He looked at Victoria. She was watching him with those intelligent eyes, seeing everything. The panic, the desperation, the wild calculation of a man about to do something spectacularly stupid. And perhaps she saw something else. Permission. Alex crossed the distance between them in 3 steps. He cupped Victoria's face in both hands, feeling her sharp intake of breath, seeing her eyes widen in shock and surprise, and something that might have been curiosity. And then he kissed her. Not a tentative brush of lips, not a gentle exploration. This was a drowning man grabbing for a lifeline, desperate and real and utterly convincing, because in that moment, it was utterly true. He was drowning, and she was air. Victoria made a small sound of surprise. Her tablet clattered to the marble floor, but she didn't pull away. Instead, her hands came up to grip the lapels of his jacket, steadying herself, and she kissed him back. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alex kept his hands on her face. Her skin was warm, soft. Her eyes were the color of whiskey, amber and gold, and full of questions he couldn't answer. He turned to face his father and Caroline without releasing her. "Dad, Caroline." His voice was steady despite the thundering of his heart. "I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Victoria Hartford." The silence that followed was the kind that precedes earthquakes. Victoria's tablet lay broken on the floor between them. She stared at the shattered screen, then at Alex, then at the two people in the doorway whose expressions ranged from shocked to furious. And then, because she was Victoria Hartford and she had spent 20 years making impossible decisions under pressure, she smiled. "Mr. Blackwood," she extended her hand to Harrison. "Alex has told me so much about you. I'm sorry we're meeting under such unexpected circumstances." Harrison's handshake was mechanical, his eyes moving between his son and this woman he'd never heard of until 30 seconds ago. "Miss Hartford, this is quite a surprise." "Is it?" Victoria's voice carried just the right note of confusion. "Alex, you said you'd told your father about us." Alex felt something shift in him. Gratitude, relief, the realization that she was going to play along, at least for now. "I wanted to be sure first." He kept his arm around her waist, feeling her stiffen slightly before relaxing into the touch. "Before involving family." Carolyn's voice cut through the room like a scalpel. "How convenient. You've been avoiding our family's arrangement for months, and suddenly you have a girlfriend no one's ever heard of. Victoria turned to her, and Alex recognized the expression. He'd seen it in boardrooms. The look of a woman who had dealt with men trying to diminish her and learned to fight back with surgical precision. The timing is what it is, Miss Ashford. I'm sorry if it's inconvenient for you, but love doesn't wait for convenient scheduling. Harrison's eyes narrowed. Strange that Alexander never mentioned you, Miss Hartford. He's private about personal matters. Victoria's hand found Alex's, their fingers interlacing with surprising ease. We wanted to be certain before making any announcements. Alex's phone rang, shattering the tension. He glanced at the screen. Margaret Blackwood, his grandmother, the one person whose opinion actually mattered to him. He answered on speaker. Alexander, darling. Margaret's voice filled the office, warm and sharp in equal measure. I heard through the most interesting channels that you've brought a young lady into your life. How delightful. I insist you both come to dinner tonight. At the estate, 7 o'clock sharp. And Victoria, dear, yes, I know your name already. I do hope you're prepared for an interrogation. I've been waiting 30 years for my grandson to bring someone worth meeting. The line went dead. Alex and Victoria stood in his office, still holding hands, while Harrison and Caroline stared at them with varying degrees of suspicion and fury. We should go, Caroline said finally, her voice tight. Clearly, Alexander has other priorities. After they left, the silence in the office felt like the moment after a bomb detonates. Quiet, shocked. The air still vibrating with the force of what had just happened. Victoria pulled her hand from his and walked to the window. She stood there for a long moment, looking out at Manhattan, her shoulders rigid with tension. Would you like to explain, she said without turning around, why you just kissed your consultant in front of your father and a woman who apparently thinks she's engaged to you? Alex ran his hand through his hair, destroying the careful styling his stylist had spent 20 minutes perfecting that morning. Caroline, our families have been planning a merger, a marriage. I've been avoiding it. And I was convenient. You were here. He moved to stand beside her at the window. And you're clearly intelligent enough that no one would think you wanted me for my money. She turned to face him, and he saw anger there, but also something else. Curiosity. Mr. Blackwood, this is insane. I'm your consultant. There's a massive conflict of interest, and you just told your entire family we're together. I know. Your grandmother expects us at dinner. I know. This could destroy both our reputations. I know. He met her eyes. Ms. Hartford, I completely understand if you want to walk away. I'll handle the fallout. Make up some excuse. Take full responsibility. She studied him for a long moment. He watched her mind work, saw the calculation behind her eyes, the weighing of risks and benefits, the assessment of a situation that had spiraled from professional to personal in the space of a kiss. What's in it for me? She asked finally. The question surprised him, not because it was mercenary, but because it was honest. Besides my eternal gratitude, what do you want? She was quiet for a moment, her fingers touching the ring on her right hand, the gold band that marked her as someone who had loved and lost. When this is over, she said slowly, I want you to invest in my consulting firm, not as charity, as a genuine business investment. I'm building something, Mr. Blackwood. I need capital. He extended his hand. Deal. And if we're doing this, it's Alex. She shook it, that same electric current passing between them. Tori, then, not Victoria, and we need ground rules. Name them. Separate bedrooms, professional injuries during working hours, and a timeline. This is temporary. When Caroline and your family back off, we end this cleanly. Agreed. He paused. One question. Yes? Why are you doing this? Really? She looked out at the city again, and when she spoke, her voice was soft. Because for 4 years, I've been going through the motions. Work, home, sleep, repeat. And when you kissed me, I felt something I haven't felt since Michael died. What? Alive. They stood there in the afternoon light, two strangers who had just agreed to the most reckless thing either of them had done in years. And somewhere in the space between them, something shifted, a recognition, a possibility, the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for. Alex's penthouse felt like a museum. Beautiful, expensive, empty. Tori walked through it with the careful attention of someone cataloging artifacts. Modern art that probably cost more than her brownstone. Furniture that looked designed for looking at rather than sitting on. Windows that framed Central Park like a painting. And nowhere, not anywhere, did she see any evidence that a human being actually lived here. 4 bedrooms, Alex said, following her gaze. You can have your choice. The East Suite has the best morning light. What about you? I don't sleep much. He moved to the kitchen, started an espresso machine that looked like it belonged in a cafe. Coffee? Please, we... She accepted the cup he handed her, their fingers brushing. That spark again. We need to create a story, something believable. Your grandmother isn't going to accept vague details. They sat in his living room, tablets out, building a relationship from scratch, like architects designing a house. How long have we been together? Alex asked. 4 months, long enough to be serious, not so long that people would wonder why they haven't met me. How did we meet? Tori thought about it, her mind running through possibilities. The Metropolitan Museum benefit. September. Were you there? I was. Then so was I. You noticed me across the room. I was wearing navy silk, low back. You asked me to dance. Did you say yes? A small smile played at her lips. Eventually, after making you work for it, he laughed, the sound surprising them both. What did we talk about? Art, Rothko specifically. Turns out we both love his work. Do you? His eyes were intent on hers. Julie? Michael and I had a small one. I sold it at Bauer and he died. Couldn't look at it anymore. The confession hung between them. Too personal, too real. She looked away, but Alex's voice drew her back. What was he like? Why do you want to know? Because you're going to be my girlfriend. I should know about the man you loved. She set down her coffee cup, her fingers finding the ring on her right hand. He was brilliant, kind. He made me laugh even when I wanted to be serious. We built our firm together. 50-50 partnership in everything. And then one morning he was making coffee and complaining about quarterly taxes and his heart just stopped. 44 years old. No warning. No goodbye. I'm sorry. So am I. She cleared her throat. Your turn. Tell me about Emma. His whole body tensed. She watched him struggle with it, the impulse to deflect warring with the need to be known. She's 16, he said finally. Beautiful. Brilliant. Hates me. I doubt that. She calls me Harrison, after my father, to remind me that I'm exactly what I swore I'd never become. Which is? Absent, cold, someone who chose work over the people who needed him. He stood, walked to the window. I missed her 8th birthday because of a merger in Tokyo, her first recital because of an emergency board meeting. By the time I realized what I'd lost, she'd already written me off. Tori joined him at the window. The sun was setting, painting Manhattan in shades of gold and shadow. You're not absent now. Too late. Maybe not. Kids are more resilient than we think, more forgiving. Are they? He turned to face her and she saw raw pain in his eyes. How do you know? Michael had a son from his first marriage, 14 when we married. He hated me, called me the replacement, but I kept showing up to his games, his concerts, even when he slammed doors in my face. And by the time Michael died, we'd become friends. What changed? Consistency. I proved I wasn't going anywhere. They stood close enough that she could see the silver threading through his dark hair, the lines around his eyes that spoke of years of sleepless nights and impossible decisions. He was handsome in the way that men in their late 40s can be. Not the smooth beauty of youth, but something harder earned. Character written in every line. Thank you, he said softly, for doing this. Don't thank me yet. We haven't faced your grandmother. Her phone buzzed. Building super. She read the message and closed her eyes. Problem? Pipe burst in my building, 3rd floor, my apartment's below. Everything's flooded, residents displaced for at least a week. They looked at each other and despite everything, despite the insanity of the day, Tori felt laughter bubbling up. So we're roommates sooner than planned. Apparently. Alex's mouth twitched. I'll have James prepare the East Suite. James? My butler. Well, Margaret's butler, technically, but he's been helping me since the divorce. You have a butler. Is that a problem? No. She shook her head, still smiling. Just reminding myself that I'm fake dating a man who has a butler and lives in a penthouse and probably hasn't been to a grocery store in 10 years. 12, actually. She laughed and he joined her, and for a moment, they were just two people finding humor in the absurd situation they'd created. The Blackwood estate rose from the Connecticut landscape like something from another era. Old money, old elegance, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. Tori felt her nerves kick in as they pulled up the circular drive. Alex's hand found hers. Breathe. You've negotiated with Fortune 500 CEOs. You can handle dinner with my family. CEOs don't have 76 years of experience reading people. True, but they also don't have Margaret's sense of humor. You'll like her. James, the butler, greeted them at the door. 70 if he was a day, with kind eyes and the bearing of someone who had served the family long enough to have earned the right to an opinion. Master Alexander, Miss Inez Hartford, Mrs. Blackwood is expecting you in the library. Margaret Blackwood appeared in the doorway like a general surveying her troops. Silver hair swept up in an elegant twist, pantsuit in deep burgundy, eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Tori for a long moment, assessing, measuring, and then she smiled. My dear girl, come here. She pulled Tori into a hug that was surprisingly warm, surprisingly real. When she stepped back, her hands remained on Tori's shoulders. Let me look at you. Intelligent eyes, good bones, and you're not intimidated by my grandson, which is refreshing. Most women either want his money or fear his reputation. You don't seem interested in either. I have my own money, Tori said, and reputations are usually just stories people tell themselves. Margaret laughed, delighted. Oh, I like you. Come, sit, tell me everything. The interrogation was gentle but thorough. How they met, what they talked about, what Tori did for a living. And through it all, Margaret watched not Tori's answers, but Alex's reactions. The way he looked at this woman, the way his shoulders relaxed in her presence. Harrison arrived with Caroline just as they were sitting down to dinner. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dinner was a chess match. Harrison asking pointed questions about Tori's background. Carolyn making subtle digs about the convenience of their timing. Margaret deflecting and redirecting with the skill of someone who had been managing family dynamics for 7 decades. And Tori holding her own with quiet dignity, never defensive, never aggressive, simply present. After dessert, Margaret stood. Tori, dear, would you help me in the kitchen? I want to show you my tea collection. Alex's eyes widened in warning, but Tori followed Margaret into the vast kitchen. Margaret closed the door and turned to face her. I'm going to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Tori's heart hammered. All right. Are you in love with my grandson? The question hung between them. Tori thought about lying, about maintaining the fiction, but something in Margaret's eyes demanded truth. We've only been seeing each other 4 months. That's not what I asked. Tori chose her words carefully. I think I could be. He's not what I expected. I thought he'd be cold, distant. But he's lonely, Margaret. So lonely it breaks my heart. And yes, I think I could love him. Maybe I already do. Margaret studied her for a long moment. Then she poured tea from an antique Chinese pot. My husband died 15 years ago. I wore my wedding ring for 10 years after. She showed Tori her right hand. The gold band caught the light. Her loves don't end, but some loves get a second chapter. Don't waste yours being afraid. They returned to find Alex standing the moment Tori entered the room, unconscious protectiveness in every line of his body. Everything all right? Perfect, Richard, Margaret said. And now I insist you both stay the night. The blue guest room is ready. Grandma, we should really get back to the city. Nonsense, it's late. You've both had wine. You'll stay. She looked at them over her reading glasses. One room, I insist. The blue guest room was beautiful in that way that old money rooms are beautiful. 4-poster bed, silk wallpaper, French doors to a private balcony, and in the center of it all, one very large, very visible bed. Tori stared at it. Alex rubbed the back of his neck. I'll take the floor. Don't be ridiculous. We're both adults. Are you sure? She met his eyes. Alex, I trust you. They changed in separate bathrooms, both taking longer than necessary. When Tori emerged in silk pajamas that were elegant and modest in equal measure, Alex was already in bed, wearing a t-shirt and sleep pants, lying as close to his edge as physically possible. She climbed in on her side, maintaining careful distance. They lay in the darkness, listening to the old house settle around them. Tori, yes? Thank you for tonight, for all of this. Your grandmother is extraordinary. What did she say to you in the kitchen? That some loves get second chapters, and not to waste mine being afraid. Alex turned on his side to face her. In the moonlight filtering through the curtains, she could see the outline of his face, the intensity of his eyes. I need to tell you something. All right. When I kissed you this morning, it was supposed to be strategy, panic, desperation. I know. But the moment my lips touched yours, it stopped being pretend. Her breath caught. Alex, I know this is supposed to be fake. I know we have rules, but Tori, nothing about the way I feel when I'm with you feels fake. They were inches apart now, the space between them charged with possibility. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Terrible. We barely know each other. We're supposed to be pretending, but they were moving closer anyway, drawn by something neither of them could name. Tori? Yes? Can I kiss you? For real this time? She answered by closing the distance between them. This kiss was nothing like the desperate grab in his office. This was exploration, discovery, the slow unfolding of something that felt inevitable and impossible in equal measure. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. Her fingers threaded through his hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, they stayed close, foreheads touching, hearts pounding. We're in trouble, Tori whispered. So much trouble. What are we doing? I don't know, but I don't want to stop. They lay there in the darkness, not kissing, not talking, just existing in that space between the pretend and real. And somehow, without discussing it, without deciding, they drifted together. Alex's arm around her waist, Tori's back against his chest, fitting together like pieces that had been waiting to find each other. The last thing Tori thought before sleep claimed her was that this was supposed to be temporary, but nothing temporary had ever felt this much like home. Morning came too soon. Tori woke to warmth and the solid presence of Alex wrapped around her. Sometime in the night, she had pulled his hand to her chest. Sometime in the night, he had buried his face in her hair. They fit together perfectly, and that terrified her more than anything. She felt him wake, his body tensing with the same realization. Neither of them moved. Morning, she whispered. Morning. His voice was rough with sleep. I should probably let you go. Probably. Still neither moved. This is complicated. Very. We have rules. We do. His arm tightened around her waist. Tori? Yes? I don't want to let you go. She turned in his arms, face to face now in the morning light. His hair was mussed. His eyes were soft. He looked younger, vulnerable. Nothing like the Silicon Ice King the business press wrote about. Alex, what are we doing? I don't know, but it feels right. It feels terrifying. That too. She reached up, traced the line of his jaw. He closed his eyes at her touch. And then someone knocked on the door. Master Alexander, James's voice carried urgency. I'm terribly sorry to disturb you, but your father has called an emergency board meeting, and I'm afraid there's been a development with the press. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents. What kind of development? Alex called. Photographs, sir, from last night. You and Ms. Hartford in the garden. The headlines are quite dramatic. Tori grabbed her phone from the nightstand. 47 missed calls. Text messages flooding in, and on every gossip site, the same photos. Her and Alex holding hands in Margaret's garden, gazing at each other with expressions that were anything but fake. The headlines screamed variations on a theme. Silicon King falls hard. Blackwood's mystery woman revealed. The billion-dollar romance. She looked at Alex, seeing her own panic reflected in his eyes. It started, she said. What has? The real complications. And somewhere in Manhattan, in offices and boardrooms and living rooms, people were waking up to the news that Alexander Blackwood, the man everyone assumed would die alone and married to his company, had apparently fallen in love. The problem was, neither Alex nor Tori were sure anymore how much of it was pretend. The board meeting started at 8 in the morning, and Alex could feel the hostility the moment he walked into the room. 12 faces turned toward him, and only 3 of them looked sympathetic. His father sat at the head of the table, expression carved from granite. The Wall Street Journal lay open in front of every seat, the same photograph repeated a dozen times. Alex and Tori in the moonlit garden. His hand on her face, her eyes closed. The headline read like a romance novel. The Billion-Dollar Kiss, Silicon King's secret romance exposed. Gentlemen, Alex took his seat. And ladies, I appreciate you coming in on short notice. Richard Sterling, the oldest board member at 73, cleared his throat. Alexander, we need to discuss this situation. The shareholders are calling. The press won't stop. Who is this woman? Victoria Hartford is a consultant I hired to restructure our operations. She's also someone I care about deeply. I don't see how that's relevant to company business. You don't see, Harrison's voice cut through the room like a blade. Your personal life is plastered across every financial publication in the country. Our stock dropped 3% on speculation that you're distracted, that you're making decisions based on emotion rather than strategy. One photograph hardly proves that. One photograph? Maria Chen, the CFO, slid another paper across the table. There are 6 more, from the Met benefit in September, except our fact-checkers can't confirm Ms. Hartford was even there. The museum has no record of her attending. The room went silent. Alex felt ice form in his stomach. I was there, he said carefully. So was she. Perhaps there was an administrative error. Or perhaps, Carolyn's voice came from the doorway, there's a simpler explanation. She walked in wearing black Armani, her expression unreadable. Alex tensed, waiting for the accusation, the exposure, the destruction of the fiction he and Tori had built. Instead, Caroline set her phone on the table. I had my assistant pull the records. Victoria Hartford was listed under her late husband's name. Michael Sterling was a major donor. She attended as his widow, Mrs. Michael Sterling. That's why you can't find her under Hartford. Alex stared at her. She met his eyes with something that might have been understanding. Thank you, Carolyn, he said quietly. Don't thank me yet. She took a seat at the table, uninvited but unchallenged. I came to tell the board something they should know. I was supposed to announce my engagement to Alexander yesterday. Our families have been planning it for over a year, but the truth is I never wanted to marry him any more than he wanted to marry me. Harrison stood. Caroline, this isn't the time. No, Harrison, it's exactly the time. She looked around the table. You're all concerned that Alexander is distracted by romance, but I've watched him for the past year. He's been distracted by misery, by going through the motions of a life he doesn't want. Yesterday in his office, I saw him look at Victoria Hartford the way I've never seen him look at anything, not even this company. And you know what? He looked alive. Richard Sterling leaned forward. Ms. Ashford, with all due respect, feelings don't run corporations. No, but exhausted, burned-out CEOs don't run them well either. She stood. I'm withdrawing from any arrangement with Alexander, and I'm recommending my father do the same. Not because I'm angry, but because I want something Alexander has apparently found. Someone who makes me feel alive. She walked out without looking back. The silence in the boardroom felt like the aftermath of a detonation. Harrison was the first to speak. This meeting is adjourned. Across town, Tori sat in a coffee shop near Columbia University, trying to ignore the stares. 3 people had already recognized her from the photos. One had asked for a selfie. She'd declined as politely as possible and buried herself in her laptop, reviewing the Blackwood restructuring proposal and trying not to think about waking up in Alex's arms. Her phone buzzed. Diana Chen, her closest friend from the consulting days. Tell me you did not fake date a billionaire without telling me. Tori closed her eyes. Di, it's complicated. Complicated is forgetting to file your taxes. This is insane. The photos are everywhere. You look at him like he hung the moon. Please tell me this is real and not some elaborate corporate scheme. I don't know what it is anymore. The honesty surprised them both. Tori, honey, you haven't dated anyone since Michael died, and now you're all over the news with Alexander Blackwood. Either you've lost your mind or you've found something. Which is it? Both, neither. I can't talk about this right now. Then come over tonight. Emergency wine and therapy session. My place, 7 o'clock. Don't make me come find you. The line went dead. Tori stared at her reflection in the coffee shop window. 42 years old, successful, independent, and somehow, impossibly, tangled up with a man she'd known for less than 48 hours in a relationship that was supposed to be pretend, but felt more real than anything she'd experienced in 4 years. Her phone buzzed again. Alex, board meeting over. Can we talk? She typed back. Your place, 1 hour. When she arrived at the penthouse, she found Alex on the balcony, tie loosened, jacket discarded, staring out at the city with the expression of a man who'd just survived a war. He didn't turn when she joined him. Caroline came to the board meeting. Tori's stomach dropped. And? She covered for us, explained why the museum couldn't find your name. Then she told them she was withdrawing from our arrangement, that she wanted what I'd apparently found, someone who makes her feel alive. That was generous. That was unexpected. He finally looked at her. The board is skeptical, but willing to wait and see. My father is furious. Margaret called to say she knew from the beginning and approves. And I have 16 interview requests from financial journalists who want to know how the Silicon Ice King fell in love. What did you tell them? I haven't answered any of them, because I don't know how to explain something I don't understand myself. They stood in silence, the afternoon sun painting Manhattan in shades of amber and gold. We should talk about this morning, Tori said finally. We woke up in each other's arms. We did. And it felt right. It did. Tori, he turned to face her fully. I know this started as pretend. I know we have rules. But somewhere between kissing you in my office and waking up with you this morning, something changed, for me at least. She looked at him, this man who commanded billions but couldn't command his own daughter's forgiveness, who built empires but lived in emotional isolation, who was supposed to be cold but looked at her with enough heat to melt steel. For me too, she admitted, and that terrifies me. Why? Because Michael died in my arms, Alex. 1 minute we were arguing about quarterly projections, and the next I was screaming for an ambulance. I loved him with everything I had, and when he died, I wanted to die too. It took me 4 years to feel human again. 4 years to rebuild. And now here you are, making me feel things I swore I'd never feel again. And all I can think is, what if I lose you too? He crossed the distance between them, cupped her face the way he had in Margaret's garden. You won't. You can't promise that. No, I can't, but Tori, I spent 12 years married to a woman I didn't love and 4 years divorced because I was too afraid to try again. I've missed my daughter's entire childhood because I chose safety over presence. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be afraid of losing you so much that I never have you at all. She closed her eyes, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. His thumbs caught them, gentle and sure. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. What if this is a mistake? Then we'll make it together. She opened her eyes and saw him clearly. Not Alexander Blackwood, billionaire CEO, just Alex. A man who was as lonely and broken and hopeful as she was. The rules, she said. We need new ones. Name them. We stop pretending. Whatever this is, we do it for real. Agreed. We're honest about what we want, what we're afraid of. No hiding behind corporate speak or emotional walls. Agreed. And if either of us wants out, we talk about it. No ghosting, no passive aggression. We treat each other like adults. Anything else? She reached up, threaded her fingers through his hair. Kiss me, for real this time. Not because someone's watching. Not because we're maintaining a fiction. Kiss me because you want to. He did. This kiss was different from all the others. Not desperate like the first, not exploratory like the second. This was a promise, a commitment, the conscious choice to step off a cliff together and hope they could fly. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Tori rested her forehead against his. We're really doing this. We really are. Your family is going to have opinions. They always do. Was the press is going to be insufferable, undoubtedly. And we've known each other less than 2 days. 43 hours, to be precise. She laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. This is insane. Completely. He pulled her closer. And I don't care. They stood on the balcony as the sun set over Manhattan, two people who had been pretending to be in love and discovered somewhere along the way that the pretending had become truth. The following week unfolded like a masterclass in media management. Tori hired a publicist. Alex gave exactly one interview to the Wall Street Journal, stating simply that his personal life was personal and his professional judgment remained sound. The stock price stabilized. The board stopped calling emergency meetings, but the scrutiny didn't stop. Photographers camped outside Alex's building. Every restaurant they visited ended up in page 6. Tori's consulting clients started asking pointed questions about conflicts of interest. And through it all, they maintained the fiction that they'd been dating for months, while privately navigating the reality of a relationship that was barely a week old. Thursday evening, Tori came home to find Alex in the kitchen cooking, actually cooking, not ordering from a private chef. You cook? He looked up, slightly embarrassed. I'm trying, it's not going well. She surveyed the damage, pasta water boiling over, sauce that looked more like soup, vegetables chopped into wildly uneven pieces. What were you attempting? Carbonara. I don't know, I wanted to do something normal, something that wasn't a performance for cameras or family or the board. Just us. The vulnerability in his voice broke something open in her chest. Move over, she said, rolling up her sleeves. Let me help. They cooked together, bumping elbows in the too large kitchen, laughing when the pancetta burned, salvaging the pasta at the last possible moment. And when they finally sat down at his dining table with 2 plates of slightly scorched but edible carbonara, it felt more intimate than any 5-star restaurant. Tell me about Emma, Tori said. Really tell me, not the edited version. Alex set down his fork. What do you want to know? Everything. When did you last see her? 3 months ago, her mother's wedding. I wasn't invited, but I showed up anyway. Emma looked at me like I was a stranger who'd crashed the party. Maybe I was. Have you tried reaching out? Every week, texts, calls, she doesn't respond. What do you say in the texts? That I love her, that I'm sorry, that I want to be part of her life. And she says nothing? Nothing. Tori reached across the table, took his hand. What if we tried something different? Like what? What if instead of apologizing, you showed her you've changed? Actions, not words. How? What does she care about? What's important to her? Alex thought about it. Photography. She wants to be a documentary photographer. She's brilliant at it, apparently. Her mother sends me photos sometimes when Emma isn't looking. Then go to her next exhibition. Don't announce it. Don't make it about you. Just show up and look at her work. Be present. She'll hate that I'm there. Maybe, or maybe she'll see that you're trying. He looked at their joined hands. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, it's terrifying. But Alex, you can't keep apologizing for the past. At some point, you have to start building a different future. Is that what we're doing? Building a future? She met his eyes. I don't know, are we? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. I'd like to, he said quietly, if you're willing to risk it. I'm 42 years old. I've already lost one person I loved. The smart thing would be to protect myself. Keep this casual, maintain distance. But somewhere between your grandmother's interrogation and waking up in your arms and watching you burn pasta, I stopped being smart. I started being hopeful. And hope is terrifying. Yes, it is. They cleared the dishes together, moving around each other with the ease of people who'd cohabitated for years rather than days. And when Tori started to head to her room, Alex caught her hand. Stay with me tonight. Just to sleep. I sleep better when you're there. She should have said no, should have maintained boundaries, should have protected herself against getting in too deep too fast. Instead, she said yes. They lay in his bed, her back against his chest, his arm around her waist, not pretending, not performing, just two people finding comfort in each other's presence. Tori? Thank you. For what? For not running, most people do eventually, when they realize how much work I am. She turned in his arms, faced him in the darkness. Alex, we're all work. Anyone who tells you differently is lying. The question isn't whether you're difficult. The question is whether you're worth it. And am I? She kissed him softly. Ask me again in 6 months. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He pulled her closer, and they drifted into sleep tangled together. Friday morning brought disaster in the form of a leaked email. Alex's phone started ringing at 6 in the morning. Tori woke to find him in his office, on a conference call with his legal team, his face the color of ash. What happened? He muted the call. Someone leaked an internal email, from me to the CFO, about hiring you. It's being spun as evidence that our relationship was manufactured to improve my public image. Was it? What? Was hiring me about improving your image? No, God, no. I hired you because you're the best restructuring consultant in the city. The relationship, that was an accident. An accident that's now all over Bloomberg and the Journal with quotes from anonymous board members saying I'm a corporate plant designed to make you look stable. He closed his eyes. I'll fix this. How? I don't know, but I will. The rest of the day was a blur of crisis management. Alex's publicist, Tori's lawyer, conference calls and strategy sessions, and increasingly aggressive questions from reporters camped outside the building. By evening, Tori stood in Alex's living room, watching the news coverage, feeling the weight of public scrutiny crushing down on her. They're saying I'm a gold digger, that I targeted you, that I engineered this whole thing. Alex came up behind her, hands on her shoulders. They're wrong. Are they? I agreed to fake date you for money, an investment in my firm. That's not exactly altruistic. That was before. Before what? Before it became real. She turned to face him. How do we prove that? How do I prove I'm not what they're saying I am? You don't. You don't owe anyone proof. The people who matter know the truth. Do they? She pulled away from him, pacing. Your board is skeptical. Half of Manhattan thinks I'm a con artist. My consulting clients are questioning my ethics. And we've been together for barely a week, Alex. A week. How do I know this is real? How do you? He flinched as if she'd struck him. You don't believe this is real? I don't know what I believe anymore. Everything is happening so fast. The press, your family, the board. We went from strangers to living together in 48 hours. Maybe everyone is right. Maybe this is just a performance we've gotten too good at. You don't mean that. Don't I? Alex, I woke up this morning in your arms, and the first thing I saw was my face on the news with the word opportunist underneath it. I have spent 20 years building a reputation, and now people I've never met are questioning everything I've ever accomplished because I got involved with you. So this is my fault. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. They stared at each other across the living room, and Tori saw the exact moment his walls went back up. The CEO mask sliding into place, the emotional distance reasserting itself. Maybe you're right, he said, his voice cold. Maybe this was a mistake, a performance we took too far. Alex, you should go to your own room. I think we both need space to think clearly. That's not what I want. Isn't it? You just spent 10 minutes telling me how this has destroyed your reputation and questioning whether anything between us is real. I was scared. I am scared. That doesn't mean I want to walk away, doesn't it? And there it was, the fundamental wound, the belief carved deep by a mother who left and a wife who divorced him and a daughter who wouldn't speak to him, that everyone eventually walks away. I'm not her, Tori said quietly. I'm not your mother or Jennifer or Emma. I'm me, and yes, I'm scared. Yes, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm still here. For how long? The question hung in the air between them. I don't know, she admitted. I can't promise you forever when we've barely had a week, but I can promise you right now and tomorrow and the day after that. Isn't that enough? He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw him struggling. The part of him that wanted to believe warring with the part that expected abandonment. I don't know if I can do this, he said finally. The uncertainty, the not knowing if you'll still be here next week or next month or next year. Welcome to relationships, Alex. Nobody knows. That's what makes it terrifying. And worth it. Is it? Worth it? She crossed the room, took his face in her hands the way he'd done to her so many times. Yes, you're worth it. We're worth it. But you have to stop waiting for me to leave. You have to stop testing me to see when I'll break. Because if you keep pushing me away, eventually I will go. Not because I want to, but because I can't fight both the world and you. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. I'm not good at this. Neither am I. We'll figure it out together. Promise? Promise, what? They stood there in the fading light, holding each other. Two broken people trying to build something whole. Saturday morning, Alex woke to find Tori already gone. Panic seized him until he found the note on her pillow. Gone to dies. Back tonight. We're okay. I promise. He picked up his phone and did something he hadn't done in 3 months. He texted Emma. There's a photography exhibition at the Morrison Gallery next week. Student work. Are you showing anything? He didn't expect a response. He never did anymore. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. How did you know about that? Your mother mentioned you were interested in documentary photography. I looked up local student exhibitions. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I have 3 photos in the show. Opening is Thursday at 7. Can I come? Long pause if you want. It wasn't an invitation, but it wasn't a rejection either. It was the first conversation they'd had in 3 months that didn't involve apologies. I want, he typed back. See you Thursday. He stared at the phone for 5 minutes, but no response came. That was okay. It was enough. Tori returned that evening to find Alex on the balcony with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I texted Emma, he said without preamble. And? She's in a student photography exhibition Thursday. She said I could come. Tori's face lit up. Alex, that's wonderful. It's not forgiveness. It's barely tolerance, but it's something. It's a start. She accepted the wine glass he handed her. Di thinks I've lost my mind, by the way. Dating a billionaire I've known for a week, moving in with him, getting tangled up in media scandals. What did you tell her? That I probably have lost my mind, but it's the most alive I've felt in 4 years. He pulled her close and they stood watching the sun set over Manhattan. The board wants to meet with both of us Monday, he said. Together. They want to interview you, evaluate whether our relationship represents a conflict of interest. And if they decide it does, then we have choices to make. Like, you resign as consultant, or we end the relationship, or I tell them it's none of their business and dare them to fire me. Which option are you leaning toward? He turned her to face him. The one where I don't lose you. Even if it costs you the company? Even then. She searched his face. You don't mean that. I've spent 30 years building empires and losing people. I'm tired of being the richest man in the graveyard, Tori. If I have to choose between Blackwood Industries and you, I choose you. That's not a choice you should have to make. But if I do, that's the choice I'm making. She kissed him then, soft and slow, and he tasted wine and possibility and the terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, he'd found something worth more than all the money in the world. Monday came too soon. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Tori wore her navy suit like armor. Alex wore his CEO mask. They sat on opposite sides of the conference table, maintaining professional distance, while 12 people evaluated whether their relationship was real or strategic. Richard Sterling led the questioning. Mr. Hartford, you were hired to restructure company operations. How do we know your recommendations aren't influenced by personal considerations? Because I'm a professional, Tori said evenly. My proposals are based on data, market analysis, and 20 years of experience. You can verify every recommendation independently. If you find anything that prioritizes Alexander's interests over the company's, I'll resign immediately. And your relationship with Mr. Blackwood? When did it truly begin? Tori looked at Alex. He looked back. And in that moment, she made a decision. The truth? She turned back to the board. We met 10 days ago. Alex hired me as a consultant. On my first day, he kissed me to avoid an unwanted engagement announcement. I agreed to pretend to be his girlfriend in exchange for an investment in my firm. We created a false history. We lied to his family. We lied to everyone. The room erupted. Harrison stood, face purple with rage. Richard Sterling reached for his phone. Maria Chen looked like she might be sick. However, Tori continued, her voice cutting through the chaos, somewhere between the pretending and the performance, something real happened. I can't tell you the exact moment. Maybe it was waking up in his arms at his grandmother's house. Maybe it was watching him burn pasta trying to cook me dinner. Maybe it was seeing him text his daughter for the first time in months because I suggested he stop apologizing and start showing up. But it became real. And yes, that complicates things. Yes, it creates conflicts of interest, which is why I'm resigning my contract, effective immediately. Tori, no, Alex said. She held up a hand. I'm resigning because my relationship with Alex matters more than any consulting fee. I'm resigning because I won't give anyone reason to question my professional judgment. And I'm resigning because the man I'm falling in love with deserves a board that trusts his decisions. And they can't do that while wondering if I'm whispering in his ear. She stood, gathered her materials, and walked out. Alex sat frozen, her words echoing in his head. Falling in love with. Harrison was talking. Richard Sterling was making motions. Maria Chen was calculating damage control, and Alex didn't care about any of it. He stood. This meeting is over. Alexander, sit down, Harrison commanded. No. He looked around the table. You want to question my judgment? Fine. But you don't get to question hers. Victoria Hartford is the most ethical person I've ever met. She just resigned a $500,000 contract to protect my reputation. If you can't see that she's exactly the kind of person this company needs, then maybe I'm leading the wrong board. He walked out, leaving 12 stunned faces behind him. He found Tori in the lobby, waiting for the elevator. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen, he said. She turned, eyes bright with unshed tears. I'm not sure which. You quit. I did. That was a lot of money, why? It was. Why? She stepped closer. Because you were willing to choose me over your company. The least I could do was choose you over a paycheck. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Neither of them moved. I meant what I said in there, Tori whispered. I'm falling in love with you, and that terrifies me. But it's true. He cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. I'm already in love with you. Have been since you called me out for being scattered in our first meeting. That was 10 days ago. I know. This is insane. I know. We're going to screw this up. We're both too damaged and scared and bad at relationships. Probably. She laughed, the sound breaking on a sob. So what do? We try anyway. We mess up and apologize and try again. We go to Emma's exhibition Thursday and probably make her uncomfortable. We deal with the press and my father and your friend Diana's judgment. And we figure it out as we go. No more pretending? No more pretending. He kissed her there in the lobby with half of Blackwood Industries watching through the glass walls. Kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Kissed her until they were both breathless, uncertain, and terrified in equal measure. When they finally broke apart, Tori rested her forehead against his. Your board is going to crucify you for this. Let them try. Your father will probably disown you. He'll get over it. And we have absolutely no idea what we're doing. Not a clue. She pulled back, looked up at him with those whiskey-colored eyes. Alex? Yeah? Take me home. And he did. The days between Monday's board meeting and Thursday's exhibition passed in a strange suspension of reality. Tori officially resigned her contract, returned all proprietary materials, and spent 2 days fielding calls from former colleagues who wanted to know if the rumors were true. Had she really fallen for a client? Had she really walked away from $500,000 for a relationship that was barely 2 weeks old? Yes, she told them, and yes, Alex dealt with the fallout at Blackwood Industries. 3 board members called for his resignation, 4 sided with him. The remaining 5 were waiting to see which way the wind blew. His father stopped speaking to him entirely, communicating only through terse emails about shareholder concerns and fiduciary responsibility. Margaret called every evening at 7 to tell them both they were being ridiculous and wonderful in equal measure. Young love, she said, and Tori had to suppress a laugh because at 42 and 48, they were hardly young. It makes people stupid and brave. I approve of both. Wednesday night, Tori found Alex on the balcony at midnight, staring at his phone. Still nothing? He shook his head. I texted her this morning, said I was looking forward to tomorrow. Radio silence. She said you could come. That's something. Or she's hoping I won't show up so she doesn't have to acknowledge me in front of her friends. Tori took the phone from his hand, set it on the table, and pulled him to his feet. Dance with me. There's no music. Then make some up. They swayed on the balcony in the Manhattan night, no rhythm except the beating of their hearts, and Alex buried his face in her hair and tried to believe that tomorrow wouldn't end in disaster. Thursday evening arrived with the weight of a reckoning. The Morrison Gallery occupied a converted warehouse in Chelsea, all exposed brick and track lighting, and the kind of studied casualness that only came with significant money. Alex and Tori arrived at 7:15, intentionally late, hoping to slip in unnoticed. They failed spectacularly. Every head in the room turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Someone whispered, "That's him. That's Alexander Blackwood." And there, across the gallery, stood Emma. She was taller than Alex remembered. When had she gotten so tall? Her dark hair was cut short, emphasizing her mother's cheekbones and his own eyes. She wore black jeans and a vintage band t-shirt and an expression of pure mortification. Their eyes met across the room. Alex saw her stiffen, saw her consider bolting for the exit. Then her photography teacher, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and paint-stained hands, put a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder and whispered something. Emma nodded, barely. Alex crossed the gallery with Tori beside him, aware of every eye tracking their movement. "Emma." His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Thank you for letting me come." "You're late." It was the first thing she'd said to him in 3 months. "I know, I'm sorry. Traffic was worse than I expected." "You could have left earlier." "Yes, I could have." He didn't make excuses, didn't explain, just accepted the criticism. Emma looked at Tori. "You're the woman from the photos." "Victoria Hartford." Tori extended her hand. "It's nice to meet you, Emma. Your father talks about you constantly." Emma's handshake was brief, skeptical. "Does he?" "He does. He's very proud of you." "He doesn't know anything about me." "Then maybe you should tell him." Tori's voice was gentle but firm. "But first, show us your work. I'd love to see what you've been creating." Emma looked between them, clearly trying to decide if this was a trap. Finally, she gestured to the far wall. 3 photos, that section." She walked away before they could respond. The photograph stopped Alex in his tracks. The first was titled "Absence." A dinner table set for 4 with one place setting empty. The lighting was golden, warm, inviting. But the empty chair cast a shadow that dominated the frame. The second was "Waiting," a child's bedroom, pristine and untouched. A ballet costume hanging on the closet door. A recital program on the desk dated 3 years ago. The third was "Recognition," and it was a photograph of Alex. He didn't remember it being taken. He was in his office, visible through the glass walls, head in his hands, the city sprawling behind him. The caption read, "My father alone with his empire." Alex couldn't breathe. "She sees you," Tori whispered. "Really sees you." "She sees a stranger." "No, she sees someone who hurt her. That's different. That's personal. You only hurt people you cared about in the first place." He turned to find Emma watching him from across the gallery. When their eyes met, she didn't look away. He walked over slowly, giving her time to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. "These are extraordinary," he said quietly. "You have real talent, Emma. Don't. Don't what? Don't pretend to know anything about my work. You don't get to show up after 3 months of silence and play proud father." "You're right, I don't. But I'm here anyway, asking if maybe we could start over. Not as we were, but as we are now." "Why, because your new girlfriend told you to?" "Because I miss you. Because I've spent 3 months realizing that being right about my reasons for working so hard doesn't matter if it costs me you. Because you're 16, and in 2 years you'll go to college, and I don't want the rest of our lives to be this." He gestured at the photograph of himself alone in his office. "Me on one side of the glass, and you on the other." Emma's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You missed my birthday. Again. I know. And my piano recital in April. I know. And you didn't come to Mom's wedding even though she invited you. I came. I stood in the back. I left before the reception because I didn't want to make it about me. Emma's mouth opened, closed. I didn't know that. I know you didn't. I'm trying, Em. Not the way I should have been trying all along. But I'm trying now, if you'll let me. She wiped her eyes roughly with the back of her hand. That woman, Victoria, is she really your girlfriend, or is that just for the press? She's really my girlfriend. You barely know her. True, was you? This is crazy. Also true. Mom says you're having a midlife crisis. Your mother might be right. Emma almost smiled, almost. I have to talk to other people. This is my exhibition. Of course, go. I'll be here. She started to walk away, then turned back. Dad? The word hit him like a physical blow. She hadn't called him that in over a year. Yeah? I'm glad you came. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was a beginning. He watched her return to her classmates, saw her point discreetly in his direction, saw them look over with new interest. And he realized that being Emma's father in public, being visibly proud of her, mattered in ways he hadn't considered. Tori slipped her hand into his. That went better than you expected. She called me Dad. I heard. She hasn't done that in a year. First time for everything. They stayed for the rest of the exhibition. Alex bought all 3 of Emma's photographs, paying well over the listed price and arranging for them to be framed and delivered to his office. When Emma hugged him goodbye, it was brief and awkward, and the most important 3 seconds of Alex's year. On the drive home, Tori watched him process the evening in silence. Talk to me, she said finally. I don't know what to say. I spent 3 months expecting her to hate me forever, and she still might, but tonight for 5 minutes, she let me be her father again. That's not nothing. No, it's everything. He reached for her hand. Thank you. For what? For making me show up, for being there with me, for not letting me hide behind apologies and guilt. That's what partners do. Partners. The words settled between them with the weight of a promise. Friday morning, Alex was in his office by 7, trying to catch up on 2 weeks of neglected work, when his assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Blackwood, your father is here. He says it's urgent. Harrison entered looking every one of his 72 years. The veneer of corporate invincibility had cracked, revealing something underneath that looked almost human. We need to talk, Harrison said without preamble. About? About the fact that I've been a hypocrite and a fool, and you're about to make the same mistakes I did. Alex leaned back in his chair. I'm listening. Harrison sat heavily in the chair across from him. When your mother left, you were 15. Do you remember what I told you? That she chose her happiness over her responsibilities. That love was a luxury we couldn't afford. Yes, and I've spent the last 30 years proving that philosophy right. I built an empire. I lost a wife. I alienated my son. And for what? So I could die rich and alone? Dad, what is this about? Margaret called me last night, told me she'd been to the gallery with her bridge club, saw Emma's photographs, told me that one of you in your office should be titled Harrison's Legacy. He laughed, but it was a bitter sound. She's right. I turned you into me, and now you're trying to be different, and I'm fighting it because it terrifies me. Terrifies you how? Because if you succeed, if you manage to have both the company and a life, then what does that make me? A man who sacrificed his family for nothing. A cautionary tale. Alex stared at his father, seeing him clearly perhaps for the first time. Not a titan of industry, just a lonely old man realizing too late what he'd traded for success. You're not a cautionary tale, Dad. You're my father. And yes, you made mistakes, but you're here now. That counts for something. Does it? Your mother's been gone 30 years. You didn't speak to me for months after your divorce. Emma won't return my calls. Then change it. The same way I'm trying to change it. Show up. Be present. Stop hiding behind work and start living. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Victoria, is she the real thing? Yes. You're sure because the board is threatening revolt. Three members want you out. Carolyn's father is making noise about selling his shares. This could cost you the company. I know. And you're willing to risk it anyway. I already lost one family because I chose this company over them. I'm not making that mistake again. Harrison stood, walked to the window, looked out at the Manhattan skyline. I made Margaret a promise 35 years ago. Before you were born, I promised her I wouldn't become my father, wouldn't let work consume everything. And I broke that promise. It's not too late to fix it, isn't it? I'm 72 years old, Alexander. What do I have left? Quarterly earnings reports and shareholder meetings and a grandson who barely knows I exist. Then get to know him. Emma has a photography exhibition that runs through Sunday. Go see her work. Tell her you're proud. Start there. She won't want to see me. She didn't want to see me either. I went anyway. Harrison turned from the window. You really love this woman. Victoria, I really do. Then I won't stand in your way. I'll handle the board. Convince the holdouts that a happy CEO is more valuable than a miserable one. But Alexander, you have to promise me something. What? Don't become me. Don't let 30 years pass before you realize what matters. Live your life now, before it's too late. After Harrison left, Alex sat in his office and did something he hadn't done in over a decade. He cried. That evening, Tori came home to find Alex cooking again. This time, the kitchen wasn't a disaster. This time, he'd managed something that actually resembled edible food. What's the occasion? He turned from the stove, and she saw it in his face. Something had shifted. My father came to see me today. And he's going to support us, handle the board, try to rebuild his relationship with Emma. Tori set down her bag slowly. What changed his mind? Margaret, in the photographs, and maybe the realization that he's 72 years old and running out of time to fix his mistakes. That's good. That's really good. Tori, I've been thinking about the fact that we've known each other 3 weeks, and I already can't imagine my life without you. About the fact that I'm 48 years old, and I've wasted enough time being careful and strategic and afraid. She crossed to him, cupped his face in her hands. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. I'm saying I want this to be real. Not fake dating that became real, just real. You and me, figuring it out as we go. We already are real. I know, but I want to make it official. I want to tell the board that you're not a conflict of interest because you're not consulting for the company anymore. You're building your own firm, and I'm investing because you're brilliant, not because we're together. I want to introduce you to Emma properly, not as my fake girlfriend, but as the woman I love. I want my father to know you, and Margaret already adores you, but I want that to be official too. Alex, slow down. Why? We're not 25, Tori. We don't have decades to waste being cautious. Life is short. Michael knew that. Your time with him proved it. I don't want to look back in 10 years and wish I'd been braver now. She kissed him then, soft and sure. I love you too. And yes, I want all of that. But let's take it one step at a time, okay? First, let's get through the board meeting Monday. Then Emma, then everything else. One step at a time. One step at a time. They ate dinner on the balcony, watching the sunset over Manhattan, and talked about the future like it was something they were building together rather than something that was happening to them. Monday's board meeting was everything and nothing like Tori expected. She wasn't allowed in the room, but Alex texted her updates every 20 minutes. 8:45. Harrison just opened by threatening to vote out any board member who votes against me. Margaret sent flowers to the conference room with a card that says, "Choose love, you fools." 9:15. Richard Sterling proposed a compromise. I stay as CEO, but we bring in an external auditor to review all decisions made since you started consulting. I agreed. 9:45. Vote just passed. 10-2. I keep my job. The dissenting votes were both Carolyn's father's appointees, and he's already calling to tell them to back off. 10:30. It's over. I'm still CEO. You're free to launch your firm. And I'm taking the rest of the day off. He came home at 11 to find Tori on the balcony with her laptop, already drafting the business plan for Hartford Consulting Group. Is that what you're calling it? She looked up. I thought about Sterling Hartford to honor Michael, but this is a new chapter. Hartford feels right. Hartford Consulting Group. He tested the words. I like it. Good, because you're my first investor. How much do you need? She named a figure. He didn't blink. Done. I'll have my lawyers draft the paperwork. Standard terms, market rate return. This is business, not charity. I wouldn't want it any other way. He pulled her to her feet, wrapped his arms around her waist. We did it. We survived the board, the press, my father, your friend's judgment. We made it through. We did. So what now? Now we build. You run Blackwood Industries. I build Hartford Consulting. We figure out how to have dinner together more than twice a week. We go to Emma's next exhibition. We visit Margaret on Sundays. We live our lives. Sounds boring. Sounds perfect. Over the next 3 months, they built their lives with the same careful attention they'd once given to building their lie. Emma started coming to Sunday dinners at Margaret's estate. The first few were stilted, awkward, full of long silences and careful conversation. But by the 6th week, she was texting Alex photos from her daily life, a sunset she'd captured, a funny sign she'd seen, small things that meant everything. Tori's consulting firm launched in October with 3 major clients, all secured through her own reputation rather than Alex's connections. She hired 2 associates, leased office space in Midtown, and worked 70-hour weeks getting everything off the ground. Alex cut his own hours to 60, making time for dinners with Tori, Sunday visits with Emma and Margaret, and one memorable reconciliation lunch with his father, where Harrison actually apologized for 3 decades of emotional distance. Carolyn called in November to say she'd met someone, a documentary filmmaker who made her laugh and didn't care about her net worth. They were taking it slow, but it felt real. Good for you, Alex said, and meant it. Good for us both, Carolyn replied. We both dodged a bullet with that arranged marriage nonsense. We really did. Alex, I'm happy for you and Victoria. Genuinely. You look at her the way I wanted someone to look at me. The way Marcus looks at me now. Thank you, Caroline. That means a lot. Just don't screw it up. Women like her don't come around twice. I know. December arrived with the first snow, and Tori came home one evening to find Alex on the balcony despite the cold, holding a small box. What's that? He turned and she saw nervousness in his eyes. Real nervousness. The kind that came from caring deeply about the answer to a question he hadn't asked yet. Tori, we've been together 4 months, which isn't very long. But it's also been the best 4 months of my life, and I know we said we'd take things slow, one step at a time, but I'm 48 years old and I don't want to waste another day not being clear about what I want. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, not a diamond, a sapphire the color of her eyes surrounded by small diamonds in an Art Deco setting. This was my grandmother's. Margaret gave it to me last week. Said she'd been waiting to see if I'd find someone worth giving it to. And I have. Tori's hands went to her mouth. Alex, I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. I know that's too fast, but I'm asking you to promise me something. Promise me we're building toward forever. Promise me this isn't just a wonderful right now. Promise me that when you're ready, you'll let me ask you properly. She took the box from his hands, looked at the ring, then at him. You're right, 4 months is too fast for marriage. But Alex, I stopped being careful the day I kissed you back in your office. I stopped protecting myself the night I slept in your arms at Margaret's house. If you're asking me if I see a future with you, the answer is yes. If you're asking me to wear your grandmother's ring and let the world know I'm serious about you, the answer is yes. If you're asking me to promise you forever even though we're both terrified, the answer is yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They stood on the balcony in the December cold, holding each other, and Tori thought about Michael, about the life they'd built and the love they'd shared. And she knew somehow that he would approve, that he'd want her to have this, to be happy, to love again. I love you, she whispered against Alex's chest. I love you too. Even though I'm stubborn and difficult and have terrible taste in movies? Especially because of those things. She laughed and he kissed her, and somewhere in the city below, life went on. But up here, 45 floors above Manhattan, 2 people who had started out pretending had found something real. 6 months later. The wedding was small, intimate, nothing like the corporate merger Harrison and Robert Ashford had once envisioned. They married in Margaret's garden on a June afternoon with 50 guests. Emma was there, standing beside her mother and stepfather, taking photographs with the expensive camera Alex had bought her for her 17th birthday. Harrison stood as Alex's best man, visibly emotional. Tori's friend Diana served as matron of honor, still occasionally muttering that this entire thing was insane, but beautiful. Carolyn came with Marcus, her filmmaker boyfriend, and cried during the vows. Margaret sat in the front row, wearing purple and pearls, beaming like she'd orchestrated the whole thing, which in a way, she had. The vows were simple. They'd written them together at midnight 2 weeks earlier, slightly drunk on wine and possibility. Alex went first. Victoria Hartford, you walked into my life when I thought I knew exactly what my future looked like. Lonely, successful, empty, and in the space of one kiss, you showed me I was wrong. You taught me that it's never too late to choose love over fear, to show up even when it's hard, to be brave enough to hope. I promise to spend the rest of our lives deserving you to be your partner in everything, to choose you every day for as long as we both shall live. Tori's turn. Alexander Blackwood, you kissed me 387 days ago, and in every day since you've shown me what it means to rebuild, to start over, to risk everything for something real. Michael taught me how to love. You taught me how to love again, and that's a different thing, a harder thing, a braver thing. I promise to be brave with you, to build with you, to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. They exchanged rings. Not the sapphire engagement ring, which Tori wore on her right hand now beside Michael's wedding band. New rings, matching platinum bands engraved with the date they'd met and one word, truth. The officiant pronounced them married. Alex kissed his wife, and 50 people cheered. The reception was held in Margaret's garden under strings of lights. Dinner was served at long tables. Champagne flowed. Emma gave a toast that made both Tori and Alex cry. I spent a lot of time being angry at my dad, Emma said, holding her glass, for choosing work over family, for missing important moments, for being absent. And he was all of those things. But this year, he chose differently. He showed up, not perfectly, but consistently. And he chose Tori, who taught him how to show up better. So here's to second chances, to new beginnings, and to Tori, who's been more patient with my father than any of us had a right to expect. Harrison's toast was shorter, but no less emotional. My son is a better man than I was at his age, than I am even now, and that's because he was brave enough to choose love when I taught him to choose success. I'm grateful to Victoria for showing him another way. And I'm grateful to both of them for reminding this old man that it's never too late to change. Tori and Alex danced their first dance to a song neither of them knew the words to, laughing as they made them up. Later, when the guests had departed and the caterers had cleaned up, they sat in the garden with Margaret, drinking champagne and watching the stars. You did well, Margaret said, both of you. We got lucky, Tori replied. Luck had nothing to do with it. You chose each other, every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. That's not luck. That's love. Wise words from a wise woman, Alex said. Naturally. Margaret stood, kissed them both on the forehead. Now go, start your honeymoon. Leave this old woman to her garden and her memories. We're not leaving until tomorrow. Then go upstairs and make some memories of your own. I'll be fine. They went, that night in the blue guest room where they'd first kissed, where they'd first admitted that the pretending had become real. Alex held Tori close and marveled at the path that had brought them here. What are you thinking, she asked. That 388 days ago, I kissed you out of panic and desperation, and today I married you out of certainty and joy. Quite a journey. The best journey. She turned in his arms, traced the line of his jaw in the moonlight. I love you, husband. I love you, wife. They made love slowly, tenderly, with the patience of people who knew they had time. Years and years of time. No more pretending, no more performing. Just truth. Epilogue. 2 years later, Hartford Consulting Group occupied the entire 15th floor of a midtown building. 23 employees, 46 active clients. revenue that had tripled in 2 years. Tori stood in her corner office looking out at Manhattan and allowed herself a moment of pride. Her assistant knocked. "Mrs. Blackwood, your 2 o'clock is here." "Send them in." A young woman entered, 26, nervous, clutching a portfolio like a lifeline. "Miss Hartford, thank you for seeing me." "Ms. Chen, please sit. Tell me about your background." As the young woman launched into her pitch, Tori saw herself at that age. Ambitious, scared, desperate to prove she belonged in rooms full of people who underestimated her. "You have an impressive resume," Tori said when she finished. "But I'm curious, why consulting? Why this firm specifically? Because 2 years ago, you walked away from a $500,000 contract to protect your integrity. And I want to work for someone who values that." Tori smiled. "When can you start?" That evening, she came home to find Alex in the kitchen, actually successfully cooking. Emma was there too, home from her first year at NYU's photography program, showing Alex something on her phone. "What's this?" "Emma got accepted to a summer program," Alex said, beaming. "Documentary photography in Morocco." "Dad's trying to convince me not to go," Emma added, but she was smiling. "I'm trying to convince you to be safe. There's a difference." "I'll be fine. Besides, Grandpa Harrison already said he'd come visit. He wants to see Morocco before he's too old to travel." "Your grandfather said that?" "He calls me every week now. We talk about photography and travel and life. It's weird, but nice." Tori watched Alex process this. The relationship with his daughter that had been shattered was rebuilding. Slowly, but surely. After dinner, after Emma left to meet friends, Alex and Tori sat on their balcony with wine and the comfortable silence of two people who knew each other deeply. "Good day?" he asked. "Great day. Hired a brilliant new associate. Closed a deal with a Fortune 100 company. Came home to my family." "That's quite a life you've built." "We've built." He pulled her close. "Remember when we first stood on this balcony? 3 weeks in, terrified, pretending. I remember thinking I was making the biggest mistake of my life. And now? Now I know it was the best decision I ever made." Her phone buzzed, a text from Diana. "Dinner next week? I want to hear about the Morocco thing. Also, I told you so about Alex." Tori laughed, showed Alex the message. "She's never going to let us forget that she was skeptical." "Never, but she was at the wedding crying harder than anyone." True. They sat in the evening light, watching the sun set over the city where they'd met, where they'd pretended, where they'd fallen in love despite themselves. "Tori, thank you." "For what?" "For saying yes that first day, when I kissed you and asked you to pretend, for being brave enough to let it become real." She turned in his arms, kissed him softly. "Thank you for being brave enough to kiss me in the first place. Best impulsive decision I ever made." "Mine too." Somewhere in the city below, people were pretending to be happy, pretending to be successful, pretending to be in love. But 45 floors above Manhattan, in a penthouse that had once been a museum and was now a home, two people had stopped pretending years ago. They'd found something better. They'd found truth. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the money or the empire or the headlines or the scandals. Just two people who had chosen each other when it was hard. Who had built a life together, one brave decision at a time. Who had learned that it's never too late to start over. Never too late to love again. Never too late to be honest about what you want and brave enough to reach for it. The arrangement that had started as fiction had become the most honest thing in both their lives. And they lived it every day with gratitude and joy and the hard-earned wisdom that comes from surviving loss and choosing hope anyway. The city sparkled beneath them. The future stretched ahead, and Alex and Tori faced it together hand in hand, no longer pretending, just living, just loving, just exactly where they were supposed to be. The end.